the book here is, there it is, The Tao of Pooh. You ever heard of this book?
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah, that looks familiar. That's let's explore explore that a little bit. The Tao of Pooh, or
Yeah,
Tao, right? It's Tao.
Tao of Pooh. You know what? If I say Tao, have you heard that term before?
I have my first interaction with that was the name of the Siamese cat in Incredible Journey, but it's and I kept calling him Teo, and then I went and watched the movie and it was Dow, and I was like, it's Teo, it's not Dow, and yeah, but for the people not like me that
Yeah,
don't know the meaning, please explain
yeah.
the
So
actual meaning of Dow.
Tao, Tao is like it means the way. It's a philosophy from Taoism that essentially is that the way to peace and success and prosperity is by um, going with the flow. Essentially, like
Mm-hmm.
nature's the real deal. You are not more powerful than nature. Be humble, please. Go with what is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I bring up this particular book, though, is that it's, first of all, it's awesome. So it's short. What is this, like 150 pages?
Mm-hmm.
And I can read it in one sitting. I hate reading, but I can read this book in one sitting. The specific
Cool.
thing that made me think of this was there's a principle in here. Oh, and by the way, Tao of Pooh, so it's like Winnie the Pooh. So it uses the characters of Winnie the Pooh in order to illustrate different Taoist principles. And so, of course, they like, hey, check out Winnie the Pooh. He's just like, oh, what's today? I don't know. Do we have some honey? And that's about it. That's like his whole everything. But it goes through all the different characters, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, Piglet kind of gets a little worked up, so that's not the goal.
Yeah, and Eeyore's a little sad.
Yeah. But the one in particular that relates to what we're talking about now is Tigger.
Yes.
So this, I don't know if he calls it the Tigger principle or something, but however he calls it in here, he uses Tigger to illustrate exactly the principle we're talking about. Now, you say anything to Tigger. You could be like, hey, I'm going to go kayaking today. And like, what's the first thing Tigger's going to say? He's going to say, Tigger's the best at kayaking.
Yeah.
He always thinks he's awesome at everything.
Yeah.
Tigger has no sense of his own limitations. None. And so he uses, the author of this book, Benjamin Hoff, he uses Tigger as a way to illustrate. He's like, Tigger is not what you want either. He is just so anti-humble, and look at how it constantly causes him problems.
Yeah.
You don't want that, do you? So that ties in with what we're talking about. Like, know your limitations, be humble, drop the entitlement, do what actually works, be at peace.
Yeah, know yourself. I think about a time in my life when I was 12 years old, and I just moved to Iceland. My dad was Navy. My parents had split up, and it was hard to make new friends. And I finally started hanging out with these guys that were all skaters. They were big time skateboarders. Tony Hawk. They all had the stuff. And I'm so uncoordinated. I couldn't skate to save my life. But we all had like similar, other than the skateboarding, we were like we had the same like humor mentality. We would draw these like hilarious like comics and stuff that would be about the school, and we would tell the same jokes, watch the same movies. We got into Monty Python together. We would, we had all these inside jokes, and we became good friends. But I perpetuated this myth that I could skate, that I was a skateboarder too. I didn't own a skateboard. And the couple times in my life that I tried, I ate it. I landed on my face. So one night they invite me to this lock-in overnight thing at this warehouse where we're all going to just sit there and just skate all night and until the morning, and then just pass out. And I wanted to go, but I was like, oh no, it's going to get revealed that I can't skate. Well, I finally I got to go. And how hard could skateboarding be? You already know where this is going. Sure enough, I eat it. I'm terrible at that, and it's pretty clear, like within minutes, that I don't know what I'm doing. And they I'm just feeling terrible. I think, and they finally, Mike Jones, he was kind of like one of our, he wasn't the ringleader, but he was kind of like, he and I were like good friends, and he pulls me aside and he's like, hey man, it's okay if you can't skate. And it was one of those things like, and then they all like, yeah, man, come on, we'll do something else. And like we ended up doing like playing like a hide and seek with like with these like balled up socks where you peg each other with the socks. I mean, we did all these non-skating things after that, but it was like that realization I didn't need to fake it. They weren't friends with me because I could skate. They were friends with me because our personalities match, and they were friends with me for who I was versus some lie that I was perpetuating. And then when I realized I didn't need to perpetuate that lie, if I was honest, I'd still hang out. And it was so freeing, but that was such an important moment in my life that I realized why, I always, whenever I'd feel compelled to tell somebody, I like, hey, have you heard of the Socks of Atlantis band? I'm not gonna, a lot of times I'd be compelled to say, yeah, I know them, and I have no idea who they are. I just made up that name. Like, yeah, I love their stuff, and like I just made that up. It's something about that where I wish people could be more free of being comfortable with who they are, so you don't have to pretend that you're into something that you're not. Does that make sense? And it's kind of like Tigger kind of is in the way matches that where, yeah, I can kayak, and then
yeah, I recognize the phenomenon you're describing, while at the same time I don't experience it. So one of the autism things that I would say I'm blessed by is that I've never had that problem. I've never had the problem of like not feeling comfortable being myself. I've always been myself turned up to 11, and that's part of why I don't have friends. but I recognize that that's relatively rare. Most people don't have the experience like I do there. Most people do have a, caving to social pressures kind of experience.
I feel like I'm almost the opposite end of you is that like, I think a lot of times I'm over anxious about that. Only in my last 10 years of my life have I realized, and it's not a like, screw everybody, Thanos was right kind of, get that. It's not necessarily that, although there's days where I'm like that. It's more of, I realized that, I don't have to pretend to be somebody I'm not, but it's like, but for so long in my life, I've been worried, like where, you talk about how you haven't had that issue. There's been so many times where I've almost been crippled by overthinking a social situation that if I just was myself, I'd be fine. But I'm so worried about, are they gonna think this about me? And they're gonna do that. And I wasted a lot of my late teens and early 20s worrying about that kind of stuff. Actually, not early 20s, but like it wasn't until I got to VMI and the military thing that I realized, well, that wasn't a thing. But do you think a lot of folks worry too much about that instead of being who they are?
I don't know what people worry about, but it does. It behaviorally, it appears to be very prevalent that many people have that same experience.
Yeah.
And there's something in particular you shared in your story about this skating with your friends and such.
Uh-huh.
There's something you said there that ties directly back to mental health conversations, and in particular the state of modern psychology, which I mentioned earlier. I have negative faith in. One of the things that is very, very, how do I say this? It's not broken. It's like, it's just
damaged.
It's missing. Something that's missing from modern psychology is something you just said, which was how you were having this experience where you're, oh, I can't skate. Are they going to reject me? And you're having some reaction to that. And then as soon as your friend came to you, I was like, bro, we don't have to skate. Let's just hang out because we accept you.
Yeah.
That experience, it sounds like, I mean, I wasn't there, but it sounds like that experience brought some relief and confidence to you, and it enabled you to open up and continue connecting with your peers. So
absolutely.
What you've just, so it sounds like that's true. That's good. So I've picked up on an aspect of your story. Good job, me.
Yeah.
But there's an element that reflects of psychology, of human psychological needs that is missing from modern psychology, which is so-called, in the healthcare field, they're beginning to talk about so-called social determinants of health. They talk about things like a human who is in a very impoverished area where there is, earlier in the conversation, I said, oh, we're not dealing with rampant murder. Well, I mean, some people are, there are actually some areas where that's the daily experience. And for such individuals, if you are in a very impoverished area, if you are in an area where every single day you are literally threatened for your physical health, that matters. It's not like you can just will your way into mental health. I mean, in principle, maybe you could, some people do make it out, but it's like the probabilities are really working against you.
Yeah.
Psychology does not seem to understand this. Psychology thinks like you are a universe unto yourself, and therefore you can just have mental health. It's like wrong. You need to have people around you who are supporting your journey. Otherwise, it's just continuing to accrue more stress. So there's this element of what I'll call a distributed mind, where any given person is not really just the body they're in. They're actually somehow distributed across their, local environment.
Yeah.
In a way that's other people also not shoulder that, but they are also vessels for it.
Catch new episodes of Mental Health Mondays every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Start your week off with a smile and some inspiration.